Good evening and welcome to today's show where we are speaking to the founder, Craig, of Super Phoenix DAO. My name is Pav. I'm super excited for this conversation as we have got a bunch of updates that are coming from the DAO and we're going to be hearing about them all today. Craig, how are you? Great to be with you today.
Thanks, Pav. Yeah, this is great. No, I appreciate helping us out, getting this going live.
Yeah, we're live on video, we're live on X and YouTube as well. So definitely tune in, drop a follow and a subscription as well there. Craig, let's get straight into it. For anyone who's here for the first time, give us a brief introduction on what the Super Phoenix DAO is.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so anyone who hasn't heard, Super Phoenix DAO, we've really been building a true decentralized organization around one of the largest Web3 gaming assets there is over at Star Atlas and the Solana ecosystem. But really, the goal of the whole thing is to pull together and become the premier virtual entertainment hub for Web3 gaming in general. So we've got multiple verticals we're working on and a lot of cool things that we want to build for the social aspect of Web3 and gaming combined.
Incredible. It's really, really exciting because we know the way in which this direction is going, and entertainment through that online or virtual reality is going to be really, really exciting and really big. And the fact that you guys are doing it with Star Atlas is absolutely massive as well.
Mhm.
I wanted to get into an interview of, the Super Phoenix DAO. I know you guys are working with badges, staking, DAO governance, artificial intelligence, and racing as well. How do all of these things tie in together?
Sure, that's a great question. Yeah, we've had a lot on the docket, and I feel like we're finally getting to that point where some of the things on the roadmap are coming to fruition.
Yeah.
A lot of these have been ideas we've been working on for the better part of a year now, and kind of come out of the gate with a lot of this. But yeah, the connections are coming together really well. The DAO token, which is on the horizon, obviously going to be kind of the governance mechanism and sort of the investment focus as far as the DAO goes overall. The NFT that we had a kind of limited launch earlier this summer is really the kind of lifetime membership or access for folks who want to participate in the DAO, eventually be on board and partaking in everything that we're building in kind of the virtual environment in the entertainment space we mentioned. And then some of the verticals we're looking at involve things like AI and some of the racing components that are coming live in some of the other game spaces we're working with, Star Atlas specifically, and then even a few others we're starting to talk to and make connections with and look to bridge that gap, between different gaming platforms.
Yeah, it's incredible. And we're going to be touching on a little bit more about the DAO governance. We're going to be speaking about badges, what that means for holders, especially with access to like the Discord verification that's coming out, and the NFTs as well, like potential staking earning options, and much more around that as well. So if we head to the badges and the sweep, I wanted to dive into this a little bit more, right? So the badge claim is open and the community badges claim is launching. What's the significance of all of these badges? How do they benefit the holders who have them?
Sure, great question. So the right now the Super Phoenix Sweep is sort of the marketing promotion that we've just launched literally within the last day or so. And we're running that campaign through all of February. And the idea is that we're using the concept of the badges that are Super Phoenix DAO themed, which we had early on. There were some exclusive badges that went out to original NFT holders, which is great. But as we continue moving forward with the badges, this was a good way to open it up to people outside of the community, and then also kind of allow for folks who have already been supporting us and part of the really supporting guilds within Star Atlas to be able to kind of rep their own community and guild still within the Star Atlas and Super Phoenix DAO ecosystem. So the cool part is we've issued these free NFT mint badges, which right now the guilds within Star Atlas that we've partnered with all have kind of their own unique link and their unique access to their own community badge. So as of today, those different communities are putting it out to their members so they can go out and grab their free badges. We are, over the course of the next week or two, we're going to be announcing additional partnerships outside of the Star Atlas ecosystem. Other
Nice.
games, other NFT communities. We're really excited to bring a few more fairly popular Solana-based NFT communities on board, get those folks involved and have some cool badges that represent, their NFT community. Along with that, though, how it plays into the whole sweepstakes we're offering is we've got a pretty substantial prize package of almost 100, I think, winners we're going to have at the end of February And to
Nice.
give, some of the items we're giving away are going to be a number of pre-sale DAO tokens, which you can only get through this sweepstakes. We're going to be giving away some of our own NFTs. We're going to be giving away a whole slew of Star Atlas ship NFTs, a lot of racing-based ones, and then a few of the larger ones. Also, some of the Star Atlas crew and crew packs NFTs. And then we've also, as some of our partnerships, Portals is another community. We've got a heavy partnership announcement coming out soon. And so we've got
Nice.
some of their cool NFTs and wearables as part of the giveaways and whatnot too. And so for anyone, as we announce these and we move forward, you can hop over to the website and be able to mint one of the badges associated with your community or your guild, or we're offering kind of a generic Super Phoenix DAO badge as well if you're interested and maybe just want to participate in the raffle. Once you get one of these free mint badges, all you have to do is join the Discord, and there's a simple verification process that you have it, and that automatically enters everybody in for the drawing at the end of February.
Yeah, so badge holders will be entered into the drawings for all sweepstakes, right? That's
Correct.
prizes that's going to be announced. And I think that was end of March you mentioned, yeah?
End of February is when we're going to start actually
Okay,
doing with some of the drawings. Yep, yep. And then we'll
nice.
move into some of the other phases of things we're offering into March. But yeah, we've got a solid about 4 weeks here run on the promo, and hopefully we can pull in a lot of folks and get people interested and see what we're working on.
And are you able to share any of those NFT collections that you're working with? Are any of those confirmed or
We've a little bit
confirmed
of both.
release dates?
Yeah, so we've got a couple that are confirmed, some that we're still talking to. I think I'll save those for the actual announcements, which we're going to put out here live literally next week. But again, I think some are very well-known names, a lot of volume, a lot of action. It's exciting, so it should be good.
Yeah, really. I must admit, I have actually heard a few of those, and I'm really pumped for those. Like, I think that integration with those communities and offering badges to those is going
Mhm.
to be really cool as well.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned that this collaboration with Portals was something that you were doing in the interim of waiting for Star Atlas to be prepared. Tell me a little bit about that. Like,
Mhm.
what sort of had all this come about, where you're looking at these different verticals and you're looking at these other conversations? What
Yeah,
prompted you
absolutely.
to reach out to collections and things like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, because as we know, there's definitely the NFT kind of collections and communities out there which are phenomenal, and they have, excellent communities that are really active. But where we're working, with Star Atlas on and kind of building out these virtual venues, that really applies more to the kind of Web3 fully immersive gaming space. And so there are obviously, multiple games and environments out there. And what we started to realize when having these conversations is that there's also a need, not only are these games building out their own virtual environments, their games and their spaces, but there's a need for them to have builders like us, like the Super Phoenix DAO, who are going to come to those virtual environments and spaces to create unique experiences, bring community, eventually user generated content, all of those things that want to be supported long term. And so the folks at Portals, we actually met and were introduced in Solana Breakpoint this year, which was great. And we've been talking to kind of ever since. They're really trying to build a platform that's very similar to kind of a Roblox, individual 3D space builder out there in Web3 on the Solana blockchain. So it was just a really good fit. We've got the cooperation and using the build program with Star Atlas, we've been able to use some of that IP and create some additional utility for those game assets now in the space we're working on with Portals, in their kind of 3D space, to bring some of these entertainment verticals to life a bit sooner while we wait for some of the higher resolution, deeper kind of in-depth reality gaming environments like Star Atlas. Another we're also in conversation with on a similar basis is Wilder World. As a matter of fact,
Nice.
I've been chatting with them quite a bit, which is phenomenal. They've got some really interesting things going that they've been working on their end with their community and their project. Be hopping on a space actually later today to chat with some of the influencers in that community. But obviously, those are the types of games and spaces in Web3 that we're really interested in, to create these virtual environments that we can bring our community to create our kind of unique entertainment experiences and really bring them to life. And so Portals has become a really good stepping stone for that, and we're looking forward to kind of the collaboration that we have going there.
Yeah, incredible, really exciting. I mean, when I first heard about that as well, it made a lot of sense as like as you touched on, like a stepping stone as well.
Mhm.
And obviously they're cooking in a massive way as well, like the almost like the Roblox version. So
Mhm.
yeah, really, really cool. I wanted to speak about the DAO token and NFT staking if we can.
Sure.
Especially with the Ember DAO token. How will it be used within the ecosystem?
Mhm. Excellent question. Yeah, so we've got, there's a few different goals with the token overall. The actual public launch of the token is still a few months out, but we'll have plenty of announcements and follow up and bring people up to speed on that. We're going to be doing a lot of affiliate links and affiliate marketing with the actual go live of the token sale. But in the meantime, much more current here is once we finish up the marketing promo and the badges, like I mentioned, through the end of February, as we get into the very beginning of March, we're going to be able to go live with the NFT staking platform that we've had on the roadmap for a bit now. And that's going to give some utility to folks who, were with us early, bought the NFTs, have been holding all the way through, which is phenomenal. And so that's going to be a way for folks to get their hands on, some of these DAO tokens sort of prior to that official public launch. And we hope that gives a little bit of incentive for folks who have, been with us for the ride thus far, and for the new members who are kind of paying attention and like I said, participating in the badge and the promo. We're looking to have another limited edition mint of those NFTs just after NFT staking goes live. So folks who maybe have found us after the fact and still want to get in or participate absolutely can. And again, that's going to be a way to get your hands on some of the DAO tokens, which as we build that out, it's going to be part of your what you would expect kind of your traditional governance model for some of the experiences the DAO is going to put together. A lot of the in-game play with the Super Phoenix actual ship that lives in Star Atlas, as their largest Web3 gaming asset. There's a large component of revenue to be driven, out of that component. So we do want governance and participation from the community there. But now also, which we can touch on in a little bit as well, there's going to be monetization opportunities for us in worlds like portals, and with some of the things we're looking at with AI and some of these new agents. So all of those would actually tie back. The goal is to tie those back to the same DAO token and make sure that we're growing the treasury, and providing real earnings to folks who are participating.
Amazing. So the tooling for the NFT staking is almost complete.
Hmm.
That allows holders to begin accumulating Ember DAO.
Hmm.
And then the staking pool is fixed, containing 20% of all Ember supply, right? So the
Yeah.
more cubes you stake, the longer you stake them will determine the amount of share of rewards that you get.
Exactly right. And so with the NFT pool, it is a fixed pool, like you said, which is 20% of all supply that'll ever exist. And it's based on an emissions rate. So there's a fixed emissions rate depending on which, NFT rarity that you have. And so the reality is, getting those cubes and getting them locked in and staked early for a longer period of time will ultimately get you a larger return on your reward. Because the pool, eventually, as it's exhausted over probably a couple year time period, that will be, that's when it gets phased out. But there's a long run there for folks who want to get in early, get those NFTs staked, and potentially even look at some of our future upcoming NFT mints again with a potential merge that gets them higher levels, more rarity, higher emission rates, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Amazing. And I really wanted to touch more on the portals and Star Atlas racing, right? So this is something
mhm.
that's obviously really big. You mentioned obviously the collaboration and the talks that you've been in since Lana Breakpoint as well. Um, by integrating Super Phoenix DAO into portals, what does this open up for the community? If I'm a community member right now and I'm listening,
Yeah.
what can I be looking to expect and what can I be excited about?
Yeah, that's a great point. So the reality is what we're looking at a couple of things because our core being, out of the Star Atlas community, we obviously really appreciate that and we want to bring some utility kind of across the way. And we've been able to move forward on this by offering folks who have some of those small racing ships that they've purchased from Star Atlas on their marketplace, which now you can, race in game in Star Atlas with their new module in the works right now, which is why the kind of community racing groups like Galia Cup are already beginning over in Star Atlas. And so we're really looking to participate in that whole event, but then also kind of co create an adjacent gameplay loop for that in the Portals ecosystem as well. So not only can we bring some folks over from Star Atlas who might want to play and be interested in some of the tournaments and offerings that we're going to conduct, both in Portals and then add-ons we're looking to do for Star Atlas. But I feel like this is also a really great bridge for all of the folks who are involved with Portals and already live there and are there all day. We're able to bring everything that we're working on with the Super Phoenix DAO into that Portals community. And they're really excited to kind of welcome us in, see what we're ready to offer, which our first piece, as we bring sort of the idea of the Super Phoenix Titan ship into Portals, the first space is obviously one of the kind of desert themed Mad Max style domes, if you will, that's going to host one of our own kind of custom racetracks in that ecosystem. So should be a lot of fun. There's a lot of synergy there. And some of the things we're looking to build on top are tournaments, brackets, and almost a kind of live event, spectator type event for both racing communities.
And to complement the Star Atlas racing module, the first dome built in Portals will be hosting a Super Phoenix style track, right?
Correct. Yep, exactly right. Yep, and we're looking forward to that. So the track should be a lot of fun. The idea is that this will be a little bit, maybe a little less intense or a little less competitive version of what Star Atlas is kind of creating in Unreal Engine 5 and kind of high definition, but yet, still really engaging, really fun, and something we can kind of build, an entertainment value around, like I said, a spectator type of esport type of venue with, and kind of, collaborate on the prizes, the brackets, the tournaments, etc. Which, again, that's a whole phase we're looking to stand up as a vertical within the entertainment piece of Super Phoenix DAO, building on those racers who are now starting to compete in Star Atlas and earn stats and rise in the leaderboards. We want to take all of that and translate it, into a real kind of esports tournament. Brand and that we can put out to viewers, right? Even if you don't participate, you can still bet on your favorite racer. You can watch interviews with them. You can, watch while we live stream some of those one-on-one races, and move forward with sort of our tournament bracket style. Should be really cool.
Yeah, and this is really looking at how entertainment is going to transform, right? And how people are going to consume and bet and enjoy these races. You can view them, and yeah, it's really exciting to see the direction that this is going in, and that's why I was so excited when you mentioned it, because that's going to be really cool to be able to do that, and especially with the Super Phoenix style track as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the Galia Cup, tell us how the tournament's going to engage players. And I know you touched on it there, expand esports in Star Atlas, but tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure, absolutely. So we're kind of envisioning it as, Star Atlas themselves is sort of building out this high fidelity, high definition, racing component, which is effectively live now. There's a few updates yet to come, but effectively live for racers to go race on a series of tracks, one versus one. And so now players are getting into there, and Galia Cup is really a community generated organization, which is structuring these races, creating a season, if you will, out of it for competition, based on wins and losses and records and points. And people will have their own leaderboards and kind of track, their win-loss record throughout this dedicated season. And right now they're sort of pitting, guild teams versus guild teams and sort of the racing component of it. And so we look at that as, if it's going to be Formula One or NASCAR or whatever, that's really the organization that sits on top that Galia Cup is putting together. But for us at Super Phoenix DAO to now begin to create the brackets, go into the spectator kind of entertainment esports side of it, we're looking at kind of an ESPN version, if you will, of what Galia Cup is functionally doing on the track. And so the first iteration we're working on right now is to create sort of a March Madness style playoff bracket competition between those racers once they complete their regular season, and we have the stats to kind of organize and rank them. So the fun part about that is, we're going to bring some great attention to it, even to folks who are not currently in the Star Atlas ecosystem, because anyone's going to be able to come and fill out our bracket, participate, watch the races live, through X or YouTube, and then be able to find out exactly where the competition's going, who their favorite folks are. We'll be able to do some fun one-on-ones some live calling of the actual games and competitions and tournaments. And so we hope to grow that into kind of its own brand and its own vertical that'll help cover these esports communities as they generate their races and their seasons and their competition.
Yeah, and we know how big esports is right now, right? On a global scale, and how big gaming is. I think it's 3 billion gamers. I don't know of which of that falls within esports, but it's absolutely staggering how big this is, and to
Mhm.
have a piece of the pie, I think is really cool. Um, I know you guys were looking at this hot topic of AI, and I know you're exploring AI integration with the virtuals protocol.
Mhm.
What was the vision of that? How does that tie into the Super Phoenix DAO?
Sure, it's a good question. I think you're right. AI is a hot topic, and it has been for a while.
Yeah.
And specifically in gaming, I think the idea of AI based NPCs has been around for a while, and I know games are actively pursuing a lot of those type of AI characters or AI implementation in helping create environments, those types of things, or expedite game development. Those are all been topics with AI, but and there's a few protocols. Virtuals probably isn't the only one, but it certainly piqued our interest because they're on the very early side of the curve with creating true AI agents that kind of live autonomously in social media space. And per the virtuals, information and kind of their goals themselves, they've stated that the areas they want to focus on first, that are the most immersive and probably have the most traction, are specifically related to entertainment and gaming, which is our perfect crossroads for what we're doing here at Super Phoenix. So the idea being creating or being able to create one of these agents that not only has its own persona and lives out in social media and can interact with people, with fans, with followers, and having a persona of, let's say, an entertainer or a musician that can become popular in its own right, but then also be able to translate that into an actual 3D avatar that can live and perform and interact in our 3D venues that we're building with Super Phoenix DAO. It feels like perfect synergy.
Mm.
We're currently talking to a couple organizations right now that are offering some accelerator programs and some grant programs working with the virtuals protocol, and our developers are currently digging into a lot of the SDKs and some of the mechanics behind the scenes to figure out exactly how the integrations might work for us. So we're really excited about that. I think there's a huge opportunity there, and at the end of the day, these agents are being positioned as not just for the purpose of entertainment and social collaboration, but there's also a monetization aspect there, which for us, we can draw that component and relate it directly back to the DAO token, and the DAO treasury, which becomes a huge kind of underlying support for the economics that we're also creating with the DAO.
One of the conversations that I found incredibly interesting, and I'd love to get your take on it, is more about this whole entertainment that we're seeing in game, or that's going to be created in game. We've actually spoken about this before in terms of how entertainment is changing, and how
Mhm.
younger generations are spending more time inside online versus outside. And not even just younger generations, we're seeing a decrease in entertainment across the board with pubs and bars and clubs. Talk me through how entertainment is going to be, moving forward
Mhm.
in Super Phoenix DAO, in Star Atlas, online, in game.
Absolutely. I think you're right. There's a lot of different potential opportunity that's going to be coming. I think it's going to be coming real strong and real quick, probably more so than people realize, because there is that massive demand. There is a younger generation that really prefers or is almost native, online and in these
Yeah.
environments. Not to mention, we a lot of times the pushback or argument we may get is, well, people really prefer live in person events, right? And to some extent that's true. However, live in virtual space is becoming almost as compelling an argument as in person. Not to mention, it drastically lowers the bar, for folks who
Yeah.
maybe don't have those opportunities, right? Because when we talk about Web3 gaming, it's a global audience, right? It's not, your local venue, your local city, and hoping that your favorite entertainer, comes somewhere close enough for you to go attend. These things now lower the bar They open it up much wider to folks who want to participate, who want to have that experience. And that's on maybe on a higher professional type level with entertainers, but even on a basic social layer, that's a huge component. I think anyone who's familiar, with gaming in general, knows that a lot of time is spent just socializing within game environments, right? And so we often talk about that as these games that we work with and are dealing with, like Star Atlas, and even in the future here with Wilder World and Portals. They're doing a phenomenal job building these environments, building these game loops. Building the compelling gaming campaigns that players are going to want to partake in and participate in and jump into. But at the end of the day, there's always there's downtime, right? There's gaps between your missions or your campaigns or whatever you're doing with your guild or your group or your team. And so the Super Phoenix DAO is really looking to become an entity that fills that gap, right? So we want to be the place that people go and socialize, and the things that they do when they're not on mission, when they're not actively, in a PvP style match. And I think that's a massive opportunity that's only going to grow as time goes on.
Yeah, and I just to touch on the barrier for folks necessarily who can't geographically get there, or even from a financial perspective, and you know, coupling that with like in-game time where you're not actively doing something, it just makes complete sense for you to be able to experience a level of entertainment within that game while you're doing that.
Mhm.
It's a really naturally makes a lot of sense. um and I wanted to get your take on where we are with gaming in general at the moment, with Web3 gaming, with the um the onboarding of more people coming into the space. What's your general view of Web3 gaming at the moment?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think right this minute there may be a bit of there may be a bit of lull in the sentiment or the feeling of where Web3 gaming is at the moment, but I think it's quite strong. The reality of Web3 gaming and the builders, like I said, these organizations that we talk to every day that we're dealing with on the back end, they are building some phenomenal games, experiences, environments, and the speed at which they're able to expedite these things now because of the technology, possibly some of the things coming on with AI. I think a lot of people aren't realizing, these aren't going to be your kind of traditional 10 plus year development tracks to get playable versions or environments out to the public. It is certainly being expedited by the technology, which is phenomenal. And even though maybe right now the sentiment of pulling over, people from traditional gaming into Web3 gaming is maybe not quite as strong or potent messaging as the hype was when metaverse was kind of a buzzword a couple years back. But it seems like that's very near and very much on the horizon, because there's still a compelling message about owning your assets, owning your NFTs, owning your skins, your characters, right? Which Web3 offers that traditional gaming just really doesn't right now. And so I think having a couple of those compelling games that really start to bridge the gap and bring folks over, we're going to see those emerge real soon. I think Off the Grid's been a really big, that was a huge example that made a big splash recently. And it does show that that's possible, right? Now they moved, into console right away, and that obviously helped with onboarding pretty considerably. Whereas a lot of these games are still sticking to a bit of PC. But there's hybrids everywhere. One of the reasons that Portals is a good fit for us in the interim is they're also completely mobile, because it's browser based, right?
Yeah.
So there's good functionality and optionality out there, and I think we're going to start seeing it come to fruition real soon.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And with the sweepstakes, you're launching a limited NFT mint, right? What's the significance of this, and what can holders expect with that?
Sure, absolutely. So the reality is the NFT collection is still intended to be ultimately a fixed collection that's going to end up. We don't know the exact numbers because we've kind of created this cool optionality for merging up, and you basically can burn lower tier NFTs and turn them into higher tier NFTs permanently. So that does, reduce supply over time. But ultimately, the long term collection for these lifetime membership NFTs, which are our kind of themed data cubes, right? Which goes into the lore of some of the Star Atlas piece and how it connects with the sentient type being of the ship itself, which you can read more about. That's really where we're going with those NFTs. And so that supply is always going to be sub 10,000 for its entire lifetime in existence. Out of the gate, we had a limited launch last summer, which we had just shy of 1,500 that were minted. And after we did our first kind of burn and merge event, that number went down significantly to just about 700 or so. So that's currently where we're at on circulating supply, which is extremely tight. But that's where we felt comfortable with in kind of our initial rollout. Now that we're beginning to add some of these components of utility, specifically NFT staking is going to be the first big one. We did want to open it back up a bit. And so we're going to do a limited tranche of another 1,000 NFTs that can be, listed and purchased, and we'll just close it, once we hit that figure. And again, the way we do our NFT launch is always a bit fun too, because it is a randomized draw, right? So we have a flat fee for all the NFTs, which is 1.5 SOL. But the reality is you have the probability of pulling either a common tier 1 NFT, or you could have something extremely rare like a high-end T5 level NFT, which those earning rates and rewards are significantly higher, multiples higher. So that component always adds a little bit of fun to it, seeing what you're going to mint. And then the reality is we have ongoing components that we continue to drop, with these NFTs. So not just the access, not just the badge component. We've also created some very cool posters and NFT artwork that are craftable items that live in the Star Atlas ecosystem. So we've already got some integration with their marketplace too, which is great. And we want to continue with this. So the idea that we can create some of this user-generated content that will live in portals as well, that ecosystem, those will all be options of people who kind of buy and hold the NFT to become, a permanent member of the DAO. And now, starting soon after this promo, being able to also use that to get their hands on, the DAO token, which is truly going to be that governance mechanism and that financial component for what we're building as these revenue sources for the DAO.
Amazing. And just before we come to like the exciting milestones that are coming up at the moment, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Web3 gaming and Solana. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on building on Solana and the gaming ecosystem over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, there's every chain kind of has had its little hiccups or its challenges, I think, with growth. But Solana has proven, Solana is one of those chains. I think that's very much proven, that its accessibility, the low cost on transactional, fees has been a huge help. Obviously, there's also promoted a massive kind of meme coin run in the Solana ecosystem. But when it comes to, actively building some of these games on chain and allowing folks then to openly, mint and trade and own and move NFTs across the blockchain, Solana is certainly one of those premier chains, not only because it's gotten, it's scaled itself considerably over the last couple of years. I think, many can argue that it's kind of worked through those bugs and become relatively battle tested in recent time periods. But yeah, the ability, to own those assets on chain, have those NFTs, and be able to move them freely in mass at low cost and low friction is a huge benefit to any of these games who are building on Solana. And specifically, I think, this came about a while ago, but the compressed NFTs have proven to be really huge in some of these types of things. For example, our badges were able to do extremely affordable, right, in that way. And even I think recently the Portals team had a big giveaway where they had loot boxes that just went out by the thousands to many, many, many different communities. Well, that becomes really easy and functional for them to do on the Solana blockchain because of its infrastructure. So not saying that other gaming chains are not comparable or don't have some of those functions, because they certainly do. And I think we are going to be in a multi-chain world, certainly. But and there's really no doubting its kind of depth in the overall market.
Yeah, it's a great answer, and I agree with a lot of that, especially the low friction, the low fees, and the fact that we've seen it battle tested, especially with the amount of volume we've seen on it recently. It definitely makes the right fit. As we head into the last couple of minutes of the show, talk us through some of the most exciting milestones that are coming up now for the Super Phoenix DAO.
Sure. Yeah, I would say on the horizon, as far as we're moving forward, kind of the big, obviously we're doing the sweep right now. We'll have the drawing at the end of the month. That'll be kind of a big one. We'll make a splash with and announce a lot of those winners. Hopefully, we have a lot of fun with that. But yeah, we immediately roll into the NFT staking, as we mentioned, goes live shortly after. We'll offer that new tranche of NFTs for kind of that random mint. And then me personally, I'll go ahead and pivot to some of our in-person events that we'll be sponsoring and hosting. The Super Phoenix DAO will have a booth, and I'll be there in person at Solana Crossroads in Istanbul, the very end of April.
Nice.
So if there's any folks who are kind of in that market or in that area or going to be attending, please stop by, say hi, check us out, see what we're up to. We'll have some fun stuff to give away. We'll definitely bring some merch with us and those good things, which kind of takes us through, through the early spring. But as we continue to move forward, we're going to be building out the infrastructure with the DAO token launch, which will be shortly after that time period. Market permitting, of course, we'll kind of keep an eye on market trends, with DAO tokens, token launches, the Web3 ecosystem, et cetera, just to make sure we're kind of doing what's right for the community and the DAO. But that's kind of the next thing on the horizon to expect. And then the tooling that goes along with it. So we've already got, the developers are looking into some of the tooling that we would need to set up our DAO token staking pool, which is a separate, additional 30% of supply that would allow people to stake those tokens while they participate in governance and then earn additional yield on those tokens. So yeah, a lot on the horizon. We've obviously got more activations, between Star Atlas and Portals that we'll be working on into the fall, specifically related to the entertainment component, being able to offer true live, music type entertainment events. That's on the docket before the end of 2025. And we're hoping we can maybe pull in some of the AI components to that too.
Nice. And in terms of a couple of conversations we've got lined up as well, tell us a little bit about the conversations we can expect in the next few weeks.
Yep, absolutely. So a few are we've got some locked down, and we got a few that we're still circling on kind of final dates and times. But throughout this same the month of February, the goal is to get back out here, talk to some more folks, get some more information out, just like we're doing today. Immediately following this live show today, I'm going to be hopping on with collaborators from Wilder World and discussing a little bit more about DAOs in general and our DAO in particular. One of the next big ones we have lined up is Michael Wagner, the CEO of Star Atlas. We'll be jumping on with him roughly this time next week, I believe. We'll get that information out too, so everyone can kind of tune in and kind of get his take and maybe some more in-depth on Web3 and gaming like we talked about, and then sort of the integrations and, what role Phoenix DAO has played in the build out over at Star Atlas. The weeks following, we're looking right now to also get some speakers from some key personnel from the team at Portals to kind of help us with that launch and that announcement. And then also we're looking at probably a combined space that brings in a lot of these community managers and key community members, on some of our affiliate NFT communities and the Web3 gaming platforms as well.
Amazing. Really, really excited with what we've got cooking. We're switching between video and spaces content. We've got some short form content coming out as well. So definitely keep a lookout for that. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on just before we wrap up?
I think we've covered most of what we've got going on. I would say just for folks to find us, right, is probably the best piece. So obviously, here on X, it's at Super Phoenix DAO, but pretty similar to with the website, which is where we're offering the badges through. There's a lot of background content for you and any of our other links on there, which is superphoenixdao.com. And then links to the Discord and everything are in both as well, both social media sites. So I would encourage folks to just come and check it out and jump in the chat.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, and everyone who tuned in as well, especially the Super Phoenix DAO family, for everyone who got involved. We're going to have a lot more content coming out over the next couple of weeks. So set those notifications on, and we look forward to seeing you guys again. Craig, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Pav. I appreciate it.
Cheers, buddy. Bye.
Bye.